exciting show. I am incredibly excited for today's conversation. We are going to be diving into the transformation on not just the external, moving from the stands to the spotlight, but ultimately the internal transformation that is necessary for us to be able to step into the limelight, to walk in our power, to ultimately move and live and breathe in accordance with who we were created to be in the first place. And there is no one better that I can think of than Chris Gray, who has just in the last year, he is taking stages, building communities like wildfire, and people are just obsessed with him. Chris Gray, thank you so much for joining us today.
Christine Marie, I am super excited to be here. So I'm like, okay. There's something I've been wanting to tell you, and I haven't.
I'm ready.
You posted a story on Facebook. I don't know how long ago, but it was a story about how you were in the car with an Uber driver, and the car was dirty, and the smell was unpleasant, and there was a lot of internal dialogue going on. But you chose, and I forget how you said it, but you chose to just lean in as opposed to being quiet, covering your nose, or judging this person. You chose to lean in and be present with that individual and learn more about them. And then through that, that person felt seen and heard. It's one of your superpowers. You help people feel seen. Now this is, let me bring this to a point. Last week, somebody asked me what my life's purpose was and how does it align with what I do. And I was like,
Good question.
Gosh, yeah. And I molded over for a week. But let me bring this all back to the point here is I feel like my life's purpose is to capture some of what you do. And this is no damn joke. When you are with people, you are with them. Like Christine is there, she's present, and you feel seen, and you are a portal of which presence comes through, or God, or whatever you want to say it. Christine's a portal for what that manifests itself through. I feel like that concept is my purpose. Let me be a portal. Let me be this flute that the air goes through. Let me be dance. Let me be whatever God needs to be to manifest itself. I think you're one of the best at doing it. And that's been something that I feel like, hey, this is my life's purpose. I want to capture some of what you do when I'm with people.
Wow, I could cry. That is the most beautiful thing, Chris. Thank you. Wow. That's how I want to live. So thank you so much. That I actually was talking with a friend the other day, and receiving compliments has been something that really has been hard. And one of the things that they reflected back to me was saying thank you and acknowledging how it's literally like, that's what I'm trying for. That's what I want. That's what I pray for. That's why I get aligned every day. And so thank you so much for your encouragement. I was not expecting that, and that is just so meaningful. So thank you. And Chris, I have to say, you do that right back. Like, that's what's so exciting when you say it's your purpose too. I'm like, I feel that resonates so much. I think that's probably why we've connected so much, is because of the presence we both bring.
It's an iron sharpening iron thing. When you gave me that compliment at the beginning of the show, I went straight to that because that's high praise coming from you. I view you as an example. And so you said something else a few months ago at one of the meetings we were at, where it was something around the terms of when we were aligned, miracles happen, right? And I think that both in our personal and professional lives, we're aligned. And so just random things start to happen. And I am so grateful. I'm so grateful to be on this journey with you and those who have become super close to me in the last couple of years.
Yes, me too. Man, I'm so grateful that you said when we're aligned, miracles happen. Because that, y'all, that is why we're talking about this topic today. Yes, we talk about getting on the stage, stepping into the limelight, but it starts from within. It starts from the external manifestation of the miracle is a direct ramification and a mirror of that which is aligned within. So, Chris, I would love to hear your journey on the internal side. You know, I already said you're taking stages like wildfire, building communities, but you've done a ton of inner work that's effectively prepared you and positioned you to then receive the external accolades that you're receiving right now. So can you kind of start us through that journey and that process?
Oh gosh, man, this is woo. You and I talked before. My favorite quote: "A problem cannot be solved on the level of consciousness that created it." Right, Einstein.
So good.
Um, there's been so much, but I think at the end of the day, to not take, go through all the, childhood stuff, whatever, I just never felt my value at the end of the day.
Mm,
Never felt it, never stepped into whatever power we have. And I'm not just talking about me. I think we all have this. There's power within all of us. And I think few of us recognize that, truly believe it, and step into it in a way that impacts the world with love and joy. So there was a power within me, but I never really stepped into it. And then a mutual friend of ours in October, I remember it like it was yesterday. He's doing the stage presentation, and it was a tactical presentation, really good information, and it was also motivational. And part of the motivational part was, he was like, "Hey, the reason I'm upstage here, I'm not any smarter than anybody out there. I'm not any smarter than any of you. The reason I'm on the stage is because I chose to, and you're too scared to go do it." And there was more along that lines, but he had his tactical stuff, and then he had the motivational stuff again to end that point. So after that, I remember we were somewhere at a bar in that event, and I'm talking to him, and I'm like, "Hey, man, that was one of your better presentations. I really really enjoyed that." And he's like, "Yo, thanks, Chris. Actually, I was thinking of you when I wrote it." And that was like a kick in the balls, and it was like a hug and a kick in the balls, because it was like, thank
right.
you for thinking of me, and I'm glad that I was inspiration into this phenomenal presentation you did, and F you for that, you know what I mean? But I I appreciate it so much, because it fired me up. Like, I was not mad at him. I was angry, but I wasn't angry at him. It was just like, he's right. Like, when you get convicted, man, it could, I don't know how for me, it just, and I was like,
Yeah.
there is something here that is stopping me from being myself, my highest self. What's stopping me from walking in my highest self, my highest purpose? And so I went and told my wife immediately about that conversation. And then there, I wrote down some notes about some goals that I have to this day. And I believe part of that was me getting out there. Like, I think that's just what I felt. And so then, I know I'm talking a lot, but then um, I'll just let me go into the next part of that. And so, for whatever reason, and I think it might have been him as well. He had talked about the Power of Now, that book or whatever. But I went through a Joe Dispenza book first, Becoming Superhuman. I read that, and I was like, oh, this is a good book, really cool. And then that started to change some things, right? It started to help me learn, hey, that's the person I want to be. Let me act as that person. Let me get my brain as that person. Like, wherever I want to be, walk as him now. And then I got into The Power of Now and New Earth by Eckhart Tolle, or Tolle, however you say his name. And for whatever reason, that landed with me. To this day, I listen to that book every day, even parts of it. Like, when I go shower or
Wow.
something, I'll just, even 10, 15 minutes of a tidbit of that I listened to. But that, for whatever reason, woke something up in me. And
Mm,
to say, to kind of bring all this to land this plane here, is my level of conscience has shifted, because I am in touch with it. I'm not enlightened, I'm not Buddha or nothing like that, but I am more aware of what's happening internally than I've ever been. I'm more awake than I have ever been. And that the whole coming out thing that you're talking about and getting out there started with going in and examining what's happening here. Now, here's the irony of all that, is that
mm,
um my career is starting to, like, blossom even more so.
mm,
It's starting to blossom. At the same time, I don't give a shit. I am like,
mm.
I am the most detached from any of that I've ever been. It is important, and it doesn't matter at all. And that detachment, I think, Christine, that I think that's
Wow.
been the difference that's made a difference. I said a lot.
You did so many. I was taking notes while you were talking. There's so many good nuggets. First, at the very beginning of this, you quoted Einstein. We cannot. Can you quote that again? It's so
Yeah.
brilliant about the level of consciousness.
A problem cannot be solved at the level of consciousness that created it.
Y'all, that, like, let's just take a second because that is brilliant. And if we really believed that, then what that means is that we are effectively self-perpetuating every single problem in our life because we have the power to change our consciousness and thus change the problem. So
Yes.
if we are unwilling to do the work to go inward, we're effectively choosing the problem in and of itself to remain in our lives. And that's where radical responsibility comes into play because it is so much easier to point the finger. However, like we've got the power, we have the power to choose. And so to that moment of awakening, you said that that gentleman from on stage kind of called you out, not publicly, but said, "Hey, I actually wrote that for you." Was that really the first kick in the pants?
Yeah. I think, and from the same gentleman again, like how our paths have aligned, Christine. Same thing with this cat. Has become like a brother to me in the last 3 years, and I don't. That doesn't happen.
No.
But there was just nudges from him and from my wife, and then I have another business partner. Shout out to Lo. Nobody knows him, the most brilliant person nobody will ever meet, and
Mm,
he he's a powerful man, and he doesn't hang around too many people. And this, me and him have been friends since 2017. This is back when my mindset was not even a fraction of what it is now, and he saw
right.
it in me then, which is why we became friends. And he helped kind of like push and push. So there's all these little things that I think in October, that conversation with my homeboy just pushed it over the edge. And I was like,
Yes.
okay, it's time to figure out what's happening here.
Can you talk about how you felt? Like, so obviously it's like the ouch, also the thank you. How did you feel it? Because you've been hearing this along the way. What was it that just combusted into, okay, now I've got to do something? Like, what was it that really lit that fire when people had been kind of poking and prodding along the way for the past, I mean, honestly, 2017 to 2014, that's a lot of time for that narrative to percolate that there's got to be change.
That's a really good question. Um, that was a slow buildup as well. You and I walk in certain circles, and we meet people, and some of these people were like marketing heroes to me, or
Mm,
business heroes, depending. And I would meet these people, and I'd be like, man, I would kind of like put some of them on a pedestal, and you get to
yeah.
meet them, and I'm like, you are just a person like me with flaws and
Mm,
strengths and all that. And then you start to get around a circle of them, and for me, Christine, I remember, oh man, here. So you and I were at the very first Driven event years ago in Vegas, very first Driven event. And Christine, I walked into that room feeling like the least of the least. That was my
mm,
first time being in a room of people who were $1 million businesses, a whole room full of them, and people talking about numbers that were like video game numbers to me at the time, right? And I was so insecure, and the imposter syndrome was deafening. It was just like, boy, what am I doing in this? All the bad stuff. Um, and I remember I had a conversation with Jason Fladlin. So shout out to Jason Fladlin. At the end of it, that was my first time meeting him. He said something to the effect of, "Man, it doesn't matter who," because I was talking to him about a little bit about the imposter syndrome. I don't know how we got there, but I was talking to him about it, and he says it doesn't matter who you were when you came into this room. What
mm,
matters is who you are when you leave. And
mm,
the whole point of that is that situation, that meeting. I was like, you know what? I need more of this. I need to be in more rooms like this, more around more people like this. And what happened was it was like reps. I normalized the abnormal. People doing these whatever numbers doesn't matter. Don't care anymore. Don't care about none of that matters. I just got used to it. But also in getting used to it, I realized that I belong. Like everybody belongs. The room has a qualification to be there. Don't get me wrong. But anybody could be in that room if they worked hard enough. Nobody is more special than the other. I belong. I am loved just like they are loved. And when that happened, when I knew, like I knew in the back of my mind, I belong. I'm just as much as anybody in here, and the least of anybody in here as well. I knew that. And then I think when that conversation happened, it was already in the back of my head. And then when that conversation happened, it was like, step into this shit now. Like,
yeah.
okay, you know it. Now actually step into it. I hope that
Yeah.
answers the question a little bit.
Yes, I love that. So when we think, when we think about what inspires change, you said a couple of things that really stood out to me. One, it's who are the people that you're surrounded by? Do they see you?
Yes.
I remember very keenly the very first person that ever saw me and called me forth. And y'all, it doesn't have to be our partners. It doesn't have to be our mentors. It really, a lot of times, it's the very thing that makes you pissed off. So what are the things that people have said to you that piss you off? And maybe that's actually who you can be. But what are we hiding behind? So number one is, are we surrounding ourselves by the people who see us? And then kind of the way that we can analyze that, even go deep further, is what are the things people have said to us that piss us off? And then usually our anger can reveal either our value system or show us what we might be preventing in ourselves from coming out and kind of adding to our life. And then the other thing you said, Chris, that really stood out was elevating the room. Really going out and intentionally being with those people that we admire, respect, strive to be like. And then to your point, it kind of normalizes it. It makes it not so, oh, you're so much higher off than me. It's,
Yes.
okay, we're actually in this together. And then let's talk about the next step, which is in part of normalizing it, not just being in the room, but also putting in the reps. So putting in the reps for me, hearing you say, it's like, yes, going out and being in those rooms, but also you've been putting out in the reps to not just do the inner work, but also build your external brand. So can you talk about how you've gone from that shift? You've done a lot on the internal cultivation. You've influenced yourself by way of the people you've surrounded yourself with, the inputs that you're receiving through books, podcasts, and then also the rooms you're in. So now, as you go step out into the world, how have you gone about the cultivation of your external brand?
It's man, that this part has been hard because um I talked to a couple people this week who I believe have personalities that are big, and they influence those around them. And when I talk to them about like getting on social media, they're like, I don't know what to say. Like it's kind of weird to be in front of a camera and all this stuff. And I felt all that plus the whole, what does even what I have to say have value? So when I heard them talking, it reminded me of me. And to your point, what I did was I just started doing it. Like I just the recording wasn't great. I don't know about the quality of the content. I don't know about any of that stuff. I just started doing it. Got a community to create. I didn't know what the hell I was doing. I just started. Man. And like yeah, of course you're gonna suck. It's new. Like you're gonna at anything you're learning or figuring out, you're gonna suck because it's new. Or at least I did. And that's been the case. And I think something that's helped me is that anything I've been successful at in my life, I wasn't good at first. One of the most notable things was basketball. I was the last kid picked until I was the first, right? Or even now in jiu-jitsu, I was the first person people wanted to fight as a white belt, to where now only people who are really, wanting to get some will pick me. I'm not saying that I'm great. I'm just saying that I've made progress. So the same thing here, like just getting out there in the public eye. Christine, you watched me. You were there with me on one of my most vulnerable moments when I did my very first Wicked Smart. I got on stage, and for me, I pooped the bed. The win was getting the rep, going on stage and learning. Okay, all right, I know I could have done better. This feeling of not doing as good as I wanted to sucks, like really sucks. But this is part of the process. Then I came back and did it again, and I did better. I won. But it's just getting out there and like, okay, what do I want to do? I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Let me take a few steps. Let me learn about it and just get out there and get the reps, get the reps.
And that looked like getting on stage in Driven. That looked like getting on podcasts. That looks like, I love that you said you just started a community. Like that to me, even still, I'm like, oh gosh. So can you talk about when you say just start, what did that look like for you?
Just starting the community, I went and looked at other people who were doing it, who had communities themselves, leaders, people that I could talk to and people I could just see from the outside. Looked at what they were doing, then I mimicked it. It was that simple. Simple, not easy. Not easy by any means. But okay, who's already doing it, doing successful? Let me take that, make it mine, and get out there. And it starts with one person and a second person, people that are close to me, people in my network. then it starts to kind of snowball and get bigger. Um, and that's what I did. But I think one thing, let me backtrack here. Um, with getting out there. Yeah. So the podcast, like getting on podcasts and stuff. Christine, that was super hard for me too. It's very awkward. Like it's very awkward to like, I don't know. It's just weird. People are talking like I didn't feel like I had anything to offer or anything of value to say. And I just kept doing them, kept doing. I remember the very first one I did was with Adam Lyons, and this was a couple years ago. And I was like shaking with the microphone. It was a panel too. It was just a panel. And like it was like one guy would go, there was a guy in the middle, and I would go last. Right. And that's kind of how Adam would ask the question. This guy would go, this guy would go, and then it would be me. So the mic would get handed down. And I remember when the mic got handed down to me and the second question would come, I would like give the mic back to the other guy so I could have time to think. Do you follow me so far? Like,
Yeah.
does that make sense or no? Does that make
Yes.
yeah. I was like scared. I was like, oh, like you go first. And every time it go back to me, you instead of holding it and just passing it back and forth, I would give it back. So my point being is to think of that very first podcast and then to be here with you now. The only difference is reps. It's just I got more exposed to talking on my feet.
And can I ask actually a question? You say the only difference is reps. Would you say that in putting in the reps, another difference is the quality? Like you've practiced enough where there is now you know the worth of your content. You've heard its impact. How can you talk a little bit about that? Because I know that, man, the more we tell our stories, the more we tell them, the more crystal clear they become. But then also we come up with new ones and we come up with new analogies, and it's like an expansion. I thought of this the other day. If you've ever read the Odyssey by Homer, it's effectively going back to the Trojan War. She uses these analogies, or Homer uses these analogies of dawn, like it's rose red fingers creeping across the sky. And I just think of it like we kind of start just slowly peeking our head up. And then, man, the more we put in our reps, the quality of our content, the ability in which we show up, the prowess, the power, it's like the dawn rising with her rose red fingers spreading across the sky. And it's beautiful to behold. And it is like that. So can you talk a little bit more about how your content evolved just by putting in the reps?
I love that analogy, and this answer might not be the best to some, but this is my answer. I go out there and I get to talking, and sometimes I say stupid things, but other times I say things that were great, and then I'm like, oh, and then I'll kind of log that back, and then that keeps happening, and back to my friend Lo, he compared it like this, where obviously I want to be like when I'm talking to you, Christine, this conversation is raw and authentic. But there's also certain situations where I got to have like some things to draw from. It's almost like if me and Christine were rap battling, I would have a bunch of rap verses that I wrote out. I can't, if it's a rap battle, I can't just like have a canned like rap that I do. You won't win.
I would surrender. So you'd win already, but yes.
but if I had like a bunch of verses that are tucked away and I pull from them when applicable, then it sounds like more organic and good. So what would happen is I do more podcasts, and I'd have and if there was a more formal one, I'd have these little good points that I can like pull from and use when applicable because I had put in so much reps and gained so much material. And here's the part that a lot of people may not like. Back to the purpose, right? For me, it's being a portal which God can work through in whatever situation. There are times when I say stuff that I don't know where that came from. That wasn't me. Like that, I don't know. And I believe that being aligned and being open, allowing that to work helps with the content, because it's not so much like me in my head, oh my God, what is Chris going to say? Da, 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 da. It's I am here on the show with Christine. We were talking about this subject. I'm going to talk. Let it work.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I love that so much, Chris. I resonate so deeply with that. And even yesterday, I was talking to an executive about this very thing, that actually in my morning times of vertical alignment, I allow for 2 to 3 hours because that's my best creation time. The times when you are really, really open to receive both from within, but then also from above, like allowing for it's like That
Yes.
did not come from me. I don't know what
Yeah.
that is, but that was profound. And there is something about just allowing for that time on a very regular basis. Chris, I have to tell you, so much of what I've learned over the last 3 years in my journey of coming to know myself, I have not read. It has been like divinely revealed to me. And I think
Beautiful.
that, and then I go and see Eckhart Tolle and I'm like, oh my gosh, like he says that. And then Marianne Williams says that. And I'm like, this is clearly there's truth here because it's all being revealed to us. And that is the beauty of being able to set aside the time and cultivate ourselves and each one of our intelligences. You were talking about how the gentleman on stage, it was a tactical talk but a motivational talk as well, and frankly it was the motivational talk, that aspect, that really drove home for you. So y'all, if we're only ever cultivating our intellect, we're going to be missing the depth, and it's not just missing the depth to the conversation, but the depth of the emotional connection that can be secured through allowing the emotional intelligence to be engaged as well. Maybe even allowing for it to be powered by the spiritual intelligence of being open to receive something new and then deliver it through the guise of even tactical. But it's so wise, and maybe it's not even something you've tried, but it's just a divine inspiration. So I
Yes.
love that you brought that in. No, most people don't talk about that, Chris. So I appreciate you going there.
Thank you for being receptive because it could seem woo woo, but it's the truth, and I'm glad that you share it.
Yeah, yes. Well, and again, y'all, those morning, it doesn't have to be the morning, but get aligned, please. My life has completely changed, Chris. It sounds like your life has changed through alignment. Even before we started this, we just took a pause to just get aligned and to just take those breaths and just to get really present. We can't be a portal apart from presence. Otherwise, we're going to be regurgitating from everything around us and mirroring and being a phantom rather than really coming from within. So
You
I love that.
you I received that, and there's something I didn't know about you, where your journey of knowing yourself and growing seems to. I mean, there's things that happened prior, but like to really do it intentionally, I think I'm about 3 years into it, and so are
Mhm.
you, right?
Yes.
And so it seems like we started around the same time,
Yeah.
and props to you and anybody else out there doing this work, because something that I've noticed is that um, people are. I was comfortable with at some point. I was somewhat comfortable with the devil I knew, meaning this wasn't Chris as his highest self, and there were these problems and this, that, and the other. And I was comfortable with that because I knew that. Like that's known. So even though it's not optimal, not my highest self, it's what's known. So it's what's safe because it's known.
Yeah.
Whereas the elevated self, walking in the highest self, oh man, you gotta change some things. You gotta get vulnerable. You gotta take some chances. You gotta do some stuff. And that is the unknown. And I believe that that unknown aspect for me is what probably took me so long to start striving towards, because it's scary. Even though
Mhm.
it's there's better stuff over there, I don't that's unknown. This right
Mm.
here is what's safe and what's known. So I'm gonna stick with this. And so, anyways,
Yes.
props to you for walking out and stepping
Mhm.
into the unknown.
Thank you, and thank you for saying that. I just actually, in my little notes that I have for our conversation as we're talking, you're saying, you were saying the things you did about like elevating the rooms you were in, being surrounded by people who see you, but then honestly being brave enough to face the uncertainty and to
That's
face
what it
the
comes down to.
yeah, I love that. Chris, Daring Greatly by Brene Brown was the very first book I ever read right when I started therapy in 2020. And it was like, oh, okay, I have to be brave, And it was like,
Yeah.
yes, it was terrifying to be vulnerable. I had never once faced my emotions. I viewed emotions as weakness. And that book really did a reframe for me, but it was predicated in bravery. The man in the arena, that's at the very beginning of her book,
Yeah.
is that quote. And that's what your podcast is based on as well, is that quote, and being the man in the arena rather than the critic on the sidelines pointing, who actually have the appearance because they perhaps are so vocal and loud and even seemingly courageous, yet they know neither failure nor defeat. And
Hmm.
one of the things that stood out to me as you were talking was your willingness to suck at the beginning. You know, people talk about the willingness to fail, but that's really broad. Like, what does that mean? What's that going to feel like? Being willing to suck, that's like, all right, I know what that's going to feel like. I know what that's probably going to look like. I'm probably going to do terrible. So can you unpack that a little bit? Because you said that a couple of times and that resonated so deeply with me. And I just know so many times all we're seeing is the curated outcomes of what people are putting out there. And it really is the question of like, are people actually doing this and sucking? And then what's the cost? What's the risk?
It's a to go back to well, it's like a jiu-jitsu lesson I've learned. When I first, I could kind of answer that question with a story.
Yeah.
When I first went and did jiu-jitsu, for people who don't know, jiu-jitsu is like anything that happens in MMA on the ground, any submissions, choking, breaking type stuff, that's jiu-jitsu. And it's a very tough sport. Like when somebody is on you, it feels like they're crushing you into the earth, the ground. You're being pressed. And it's pressure that I've never felt in my entire life. The very first time I felt it, I was like, what is going on? And I would just even tap to the pressure because it was just so much. It's so uncomfortable. That was the first month. And then month 2 happens and I can survive a little more. Month 3 happens. Let's get to year 9 where I'm at right now, or 10, whatever it is. Now it's a comfort zone. Like I get that pressure and I'm like, oh, I'm home. And I can breathe. I relax. I don't panic. I don't flip out like I
Wow.
was. I'm just breathing and chilling because I've become comfortable with being uncomfortable. This
Right.
concept is applicable to so many things. If me and Jenny, my wife, are in an intense conversation back in the day, my feelings would well up and I'm running with the emotions. The emotions have taken me over. I've gone down. I'm gone. I'm just reacting to whatever I feel. Whereas now that comes up, that discomfort comes up, breathe. Oh, it's there. Cool. I'm cool with this. And then I all the feelings are there. I just recognize them. I don't react to them. I see them, acknowledge them, and I choose how to go from there because I'm comfortable with this uncomfortable situation. And
Mm,
so just doing that type of concept over and over, I know that getting on stage, I'm not going to be the greatest. And I am still not. Like I'm still at the very beginning of this whole stage thing.
mhm,
I feel like I'm getting better, but I still know that I'm gonna bomb, and I'm gonna have to be okay with that. Or
mm.
podcasts, like the first ones weren't the best. It's okay. Let me learn from that and get comfortable with this. And so, to answer that question, I've learned the value of being comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I think most important, Christine, is I don't just apply it to like the business world. I I do well when I'm able to take a concept and learn it as a principle and apply
Yeah.
it into multiple areas of my life. That's when I really excel at a concept.
Love that. I love that. It really does, man, when we take these, when it becomes a principle of our life. And Chris, we never actually can operate disparately. You know, if it's not an actual principle, it's probably not going to have roots. And so if
Yes.
we really want to see real change, it has to become a belief. And actually, you mentioned something about this earlier. Um, where did I write this? Oh, yeah. You said we have to believe it in order to step into it. So then the question is, so what are your beliefs about you? What are your beliefs about your potential? What are your beliefs about the vision for your life? And y'all, if we're not walking accordingly, then we don't believe it. Otherwise, our behavior would reflect it. So our behavior is a manifestation and a reflection of our beliefs. And so if we want our behavior to change, we have to change the belief. We have to change the core principle for something to really be long lasting. So I'm so grateful you brought that up because you said that earlier. It resonated with me and I forgot to circle back. I want to talk really quickly about just a few practical things about
Yes.
moving from the stands to the
Yeah,
stages,
yeah, for sure.
to the spotlight. I want to talk about one of the things that I was thinking of as you were talking about putting in the reps was effectively, do we have KPIs, key performance indicators, to be attributed when we put in the reps so that we know when we're on track or off track? Otherwise, we just say, I need to put in the reps, but there's no real guiding system to move us forward. So can you talk about some of the KPIs that you had in place to congratulate yourself, to give and self-administer the dopamine hits, because otherwise you're going to stick in this, I'm not worthy, I don't belong. So we basically have to completely reframe the sucking to be something worthy of doing again. So that's question number one. And then question number two, or just some one of the practical things that you did to actually go get on those podcasts.
All right, so let me do question number one. Then you might have to circle me back to question number two, but I forget. So the question number one is, what are my KPIs for getting out there, right? Like, how am I using to measure? So there's a few. The first one that comes to mind is me and my assistant, Marty Saul, shout out to Marty Saul, couldn't do it without her. I post on LinkedIn, Instagram, TikTok, YouTube Shorts, right? As far as like automatic posting. My Facebook posts are all organic, me just kind of whatever. But we post on those routinely through a platform called Buffer. So I'll record all my content I'll do it in chunks, right? It'll take a day and just boom. Then I drip it out over the course of a quarter or so. And then what we'll do is we drip those out, and then weekly we meet to look at the interaction of that video or the videos and the views of them, right? And then we say, okay, cool, this video did this top, and we take note of the winners. And then we look at it next week, and then the next week, and then quarterly, next week, and then monthly, we look at, well, what was the growth of each channel, like as far as followers go. Now, here's the thing. Starting off, I think this is the key part that really helped me. Starting off, nobody's going to care about your shit. Like, nobody, because why should they listen to you? You're starting off. Nobody knows you. But like, and a friend of mine, Ryan, told me this. It's like, if I had 10 people in a room that were wanting to watch and they all watched what I had to say, like they all wanted to hear what I had to say, like 10 people, I'd be elated. I'd be like, oh, 10, that's great.
I love this.
Yes, I see just 10 people watch my video, all of a sudden I'm sad.
Dang it,
these are 10 people. These are 10 real humans, right? And if the next month, if I had like only 3 people following me, right? Well, I say only, it's still 3 people, but if I had 3 people following me, the next month I have 5 or 6, that's like 100% growth. If it's 6, and there's 6 real people who care about what I have to say. I think thinking of it and not forgetting that these are actual humans that are actually listening to me helps me, like, okay, I don't care if it's like 5, 6 people, whatever. If real people are willing to listen to me, 1 or 2 or whatever it is, then that helps. And I think at the very beginning and still to this day, that is what helped me, is framing it that way. But to answer your question, the KPI wise, is I measure the efficacy of our videos by the engagement and the views. I take note and I keep building on what's done well, and then I kind of I get rid of what's not going so well. And that could be anywhere from the content to the way the video is shot. Here's one more tactical thing. Shout out to Kenya for this. My TikToks for a while were just this, me talking head with this background, right? Now my TikToks and Instagrams, they have a title at the very top of it that tells you what you're going to get, right? I started off at a weird angle, so I might have the camera like this. The hook is shot with me saying that. Then when I get into the content, it's a different view on my phone of me somewhere else. Yeah, all this is that alone, all of a sudden I saw an increase in my TikTok engagement just by changing it up tactically. But all this is just doing it and learning. And then we saw an increase in the views and an increase in the followers. And so to answer your question, that's one tactical thing I do. And then the KPI thing is I actually have data to measure what's working and what's not. I think that was a question number 1, but I'll let you comment before I get to question number 2.
Love that. Well, I love the switching of the camera angle for the hook and then the rest of the video. I love that. That's so good for the little engagement. Chris, you're talking about the practice with the KPIs and monitoring it and analyzing it. You talked earlier about the principle, but then going back to the very beginning, we were talking about your purpose. You know, y'all, we have to have clarity of why am I doing this? And it's for the actual humans. because our
Yeah.
purpose grounds the practice to really have meaning. Even if we're cultivating the practice, the purpose is what propels us and keeps us going, and then also allows for it to be a joy. Like, what a privilege, these 3 people, these 10 people, these 50 people, what a blessing that is. So I had a friend tell me that as well, and that really added such a breath of perspective. I forget what it was, and he was like, okay, let's line up the bodies in this room. That's one person, one person. And I was like, okay, I get the point. You're right. But it was so important. We forget that we're here doing this because of the impact we want to make and whatever our purpose is. So if we don't have clarity around our purpose and the principles guiding us forward, then the practice is going to be really easy to run dry. It's going to be easy to get fatigued. It's, why am
Yeah.
I doing this? The sucking will get draining because it is draining apart from the foundation of the purpose. So I'm so grateful for you saying that. Okay, lastly, what were some tactics you did on the podcast side?
One of the main things is obviously like we talked about getting in the rooms. If you get in
Yeah.
rooms, you start meeting people. When people have podcasts, you have the opportunity to get on. So that's
Mhm.
one thing that helps. But if you don't have the opportunity to go out there and meet people and get in rooms, something else I've done is I've cold outreach people to get on their podcast. But
Mm,
here's the main thing, and there's different ways to do this, but here's the general principle: is there's one approach where how can me, Chris, get out there so you can hear me, Chris, talk about all the stuff that Chris does. Let me get on your show so I could just be me all over your show, right? There's another approach which is far more effective of what would help this person have the best show ever, and
mm,
how can I provide that? Like, what does
mhm,
this person want, and how can I help them get that? How can I help their audience
mhm.
get that? And when I think from that perspective and knowing my strengths, when I reach out to somebody, it's always what is in it for them. Why
Yeah.
should they put me on their show? How would that help them? How would that help their audience? And then when I reach out, I clearly articulate that, whatever it might be. But also, one more tip, because I know we got to go. I think we got to go. Is the headline? Like because they're getting a bunch of emails or requests or forms or whatever, and so in that headline, it's got to tell them again, this is what I'm here to give you or whatever. And then when they open up the email or the form or whatever, I then elaborate on that. So capture their
Mhm.
attention with the headline that's going to what's in it for them, and then expand on that when I fill out their forms or their emails or whatever it is.
So good. Chris Gray, I am so grateful for you. I had no fear that this would not be an amazing conversation, and you blew me away even more than I hoped for. So thank you so much for speaking so openly and from such a raw place. I'm so grateful for the example that you are and for your presence. So I appreciate you.
That door swings both ways. Thank you. This changed my energy this morning. So thank you.
Mhm.